The dead? The dead ain't gotta worry about this mess. Our world, she's done. But there's a way to put her back together. So better get ready.
Summer of Arcade is upon us. And the first game that was released in that promotional thingy was Bastion, which you played.
Yeah, I did.
And that's a sort of dungeon crawler type thing?
I would say it is. See, Bastion is this latest action RPG dungeon crawl style game, and it's really a great title of the Summer Arcade 2011.
Why?
Why? Well, very good question. I think, first of all, the first thing you will notice about Bastion is that it has this very unique visual style. Really great kind of artistic, hand-painted scope, and the worlds and the different levels that you progress through. I mean, the scope and the spectacle is really just amazing. It feels vibrant, it feels alive, and the color palette and the way they use the color palette, really interesting for an Xbox live arcade title, at least. So
besides looking really excellent, is it just your standard run-of-the-mill dungeon crawler, or?
Standard run-of-the-mill, well, there are a few different things about it. I would say any dungeon crawler is a good dungeon crawler, right? when it's done appropriately. I think Bastion has a few things in its advantage. It has a deeper context, deeper relation to its story, and the context of the story is much more elaborate than your average dungeon crawl, because, you know, stories in dungeon crawl. Come on, pretty lame, right? But Bastion has this more of a kind of like a Zelda-esque inspiration, where you have this journey and you have these ultimate goal and this very very likable character that you get completely immersed with. So I think it's a great platform for this, from the adventure to go on through.
So what's it about? What's the story?
The world of that you go through has been fragmented in every way, and the excellent thing about this story is that it actually implements well into the gameplay. But we'll return to that. You play as Kid, one of the survivors of this cataclysmic event, one of the sole survivors of this event. And Kid really needs to go to Bastion, which is like the high castle or the main city of the world, and he needs to really, you know, sort of just get a grasp of what has happened here, what triggered the event. Is there any other survivors? And so it's like this, well, you could say it's like this usual adventure fantasy quest, right? Who am I? Where am I? And are there any other people of interest in this world? The story is a little tiresome in the beginning. It drags it. Well, you could say that, but it drags its feet a lot of the way, and it doesn't get that momentum that I would say a good action RPG needs in order to implement the story real quick. You know, you have to see this is the hero, right? And this is his ultimate goal. We need to, you know, establish those sort of parameters real quick in order to live in the game, right? Bastion is slow on its feet in that regard. But when it goes real great. So I would say story is a long stretch in the beginning, but it gets better along the way.
One of the things about this game that's been talked about a lot is the narration, because apparently the story is told in
a very strange way, you could say, for these kind of games, because there is a narrator actually narrating the whole thing as you go through the game, and this is the point where I wanted to get back to earlier, is that the world actually forms as the kid goes through the world, And this fragmentation that I started with the cataclysmic event in the beginning of the game, this comes alive in a way. And while it's being narrated by the narrator, you know, it feels like you're sort of like reading a book in a way. It has this fantasy feel to it that I think, you know, makes it imaginary in some sort of way, right? And coupled with the great design and enemies and the way that when you fight enemies in these dungeons and whatnot, you know, it really comes together in this great package. It looks good, it feels good, it plays very well. Of course, there is the standard loot, you know, who doesn't like loot, and great ways of upgrading your weapon and so on. So it's really, I wouldn't say run of the mill because it looks, feels amazing and feels very vibrant and very just like a summer game, right? A summer action RPG, just like the Summer Arcade 2011. It's perfect match.